once you're in that path of spirituality, you question that if at the end of the day, the materialistic things aren't going to give me happiness, then what will? And that kind of puts you in a depressive state.
It puts you in a loop.
Exactly. Puts you in a constant loop, and you constantly just like, you're thinking and thinking and thinking, and then you overthink to the point where you get into that depression state. Like, what's the point of everything? You know, how we're all wandering souls on this earth, and we're all trying to find the truth, right? And more importantly, we're trying to find happiness. We think that, oh, you know what, this is going to give us happiness. Oh, we're going to buy that bag, this brand, Gucci, this, that, Versace, all that stuff, and that will give us happiness. But what we don't realize is that's temporary happiness, and in actuality, that's not what real happiness is. You know, a lot of the times, real happiness is within yourself.
But you know, it's often very difficult when you're going through a struggle in life to actually dig deep and look into your heart and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. Because often you look around and, you know, maybe that is the steps you took are not serving you. And while you believe in it truly, you don't sometimes have the courage to move forward and keep following your heart. Hi, and thank you so much for getting on and having this conversation. I know some of folks who are going to be watching this are going to be like, what is Pragyaan doing in this context? Because I host my own podcast, which is called Pragyaan Podcast. But Rudy Bhaiya, who's the host of Kanha Cast, has been very gracious, as he always is, to allow us to record here. So thank you so much for coming on. And
of course,
I know this is your second visit to Kanha, and you know, you've seen various sides, and you've seen also, I would say, the growth and transformation from last year to this year. So you know, you've come back. So what pulled you back here?
To be honest, definitely Daji, but also everybody that's part of him that makes Daji who he is his volunteers. Suchit gave me a call. He's such a good human being. And so many people that I've been meeting over here since my first time, they kind of embody that essence, that Heartfulness Center, that Kanha, that Daji represents, which at the end of the day is love, right? And when Suchit called me, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he told me about this. I was like, of course. And I don't do a lot of, if I do brand partnerships or any sort of like, if I work with somebody, I care more about what the project is, what it's about, what the meaning is. And when it comes to Daji, it's someone that he really touched my heart. When I first met him, I did a podcast with him, something like this only.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't come in with any expectations, but he kind of put me in a state of honest, like pure bliss. It was so amazing just talking to him. You know, I remember my first question was asking him about love. And he was like, that's a very big question. That's not an easy question. I'm like, no, I know. And just from that point on, we just went into so many different topics, so many different areas of discussions that kind of like just opened my heart. I remember he was starting to talk about, you know, as I was telling you about industry artists, because as an artist myself, as an actor and a singer, I'm always interested in what are not just duty as artists are, but also kind of like, what's the point of being an artist? Is it just to produce content for entertainment? Or is it also like to kind of affect people, affect society, you know, put something out there that can hopefully bring some change? And you see this in a lot of artists, whether it's Tracy Chapman with Fast Car, which is a beautiful song. Even Michael Jackson with Man in the Mirror, he kind of, he really showed what it means to be making a change, that it's not about, point this about someone else, point that about someone else, but actually look at the man in the mirror, right? Dive within yourself. And since then I was just like overflowed with so many emotions, and I was like, I'm gonna come back. And the second I entered the center, the second I entered Kanha, I was again blown away with all that love. I met you, I met Chandan, so many people over here. Just so much love, even all the influencers I've been meeting today, just so much positive energy. And I can't believe that we did meditation. I did not know we were going to do group meditations together. And the fact that we did meditations, it's gotten me already in such a great state. And just really happy to have this conversation.
It's amazing to have you here. And
thank you so much.
Sharing all of this from your heart. And I can actually feel it so genuine and authentic. And
thank you.
You're so right. I think often when I also go and ask Daji a number of questions about, what should I do when I'm in my own corporate career, and I think he always gives me guidance, but also often tells me to listen to my own heart. And I think that
Wow.
really comes with, the deep practice that we have of heartfulness. And,
Yeah.
you're here for the Global Spirituality Mahotsav. And really the vision here that Daji is trying to bring together along with the Ministry of Culture and many other partner organizations is around inner peace.
Yeah.
And how inner peace can lead to global peace. If an individual is at peace, then collectively we can hope that there is less wars, less competition, and everyone comes together for one agenda, which is togetherness.
Wow.
I want to understand from you, as a creator and also as an influencer, what is it that you really go back to for finding your inner peace or your inner joy?
When it comes time to like talk about inner peace, definitely I do meditation. That's actually I've got initiated into Heartfulness here at Ghana. It was the best experience I could ever imagine having. Right here in the Kanha Center, I did my 3 sessions, and again, I did not come with any expectations. I came with an open heart. I was just following the energy that I was receiving, and it was somewhat like what you did today, and it was a little bit guided towards the beginning, which was really good because it kind of flowed right into that meditative state. And since then, I've been practicing Heartfulness technique regularly. And for me personally, when it comes to inner peace, I always try to go within myself. I try to kind of not analyze, I would say, but also just kind of like dive deep into my heart, which is kind of what, when we do Heartfulness, you say visualize your heart energy, something flowing towards that. And for me, that makes a big difference. Every time I'm trying to think about my life, my problems, what is the meaning of us being here? Why am I even doing this, right? Why are we doing our careers, all these jobs? Everybody's in a rat race. We want to achieve that. We want to achieve this, right? Well, like, what's the reason? So for me, when it comes to inner peace, I just dive within my heart and I go from there.
And, you were sharing with me how when you returned back last time, your mother told you what's happened to you.
Oh, yeah. No, she was
so tell me
shocked
about that.
Yeah, so like basically, before I met Daji, before I got into Heartfulness, I started making some originals, and it was centered around love because that's the type of person I am. I always talk from the heart. I always connect to people from the heart. But I wasn't diving that deep into my writing. And once I met Daji, I got into Heartfulness, and I came back to Delhi over here. My mom was like, "What's happened to you?" And it wasn't just that, oh, he's calm, he's relaxed, but I was in a state of like self-discovery in a way, and I was like, "Wow, I mean, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why? Like, what's the point of everything?" And I started writing such deep lyrics. I wrote this song. This isn't even released yet, but it's called Avadagi. It's about, how we're all wandering souls on this earth, and we're all trying to find the truth, right? And more importantly, we're trying to find happiness. And that's where the main problem comes, as I perceive it, is that we think that, oh, you know what, this is going to give us happiness. We're going to this party. Okay. Parties every Friday, parties every Saturday. Oh, we're going to buy that bag, this brand, Gucci, this, that, Versace, all that stuff. And that will give us happiness. But what we don't realize is that's temporary happiness. And in actuality, that's not what real happiness is. A lot of the times real happiness is within yourself, right? When you're in content with yourself, people are like, am I successful yet? Oh, but I haven't made it, right? I'm not successful yet. But the way I think is that success is more about how you feel within yourself. If you are contented with what you're doing, if your soul is contented with what you're doing, it's not that because we're living in a day in social media. And I think this is really important to say, for anybody watching who either might be an influencer already or is thinking of getting into social media, a lot of the times you'll get into that aspect of likes, followers, and you'll be like, oh, but I shouldn't do this because what if I don't get enough engagement? Oh, if I do this, I'll get more comments. Oh, but I have more girl followers, so girls will like this better, all that stuff. And so I've realized this myself. Like if you go on my social media, I don't even post too often. I post a good amount, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm going to put out a cover every week. I'm going to put out a post every week. But don't just get into the rat race of posting. Sometimes, like, do your work with your heart. And a lot of the times, if you're getting into a specific niche, whether on social media or anything, and you want to promote something, do something you love. Like, I met some great people here, someone who's into yoga, someone, right? And he's doing because he loves it, right? He does it himself, and he wants to spread that beautiful art, that beautiful process to the rest of the world. And for me personally, that's what I want to do with music, with acting, with my content. So yeah, just speak from the heart once again. And I feel like Heartfulness definitely kind of lays that path for you. It kind of opens your heart. So whatever you do it not from the shell that we're living in. Because I mean, at the end of the day, this body is just a costume, right? It's we're walking around. Everybody is like, it's our car, but inside that car, we have our soul. And in order to connect that soul into what we're doing, sometimes you got to think from the heart. And when you think from the heart, even if in the beginning you might not get that much materialistic success, at the end of the day, your soul will be happy, and that will give you ultimate happiness.
Couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. But it's often very difficult when you're going through a struggle in life to actually dig deep and look into your heart and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. Because often you look around and, maybe that is the steps you took are not serving you.
Exactly.
And while you believe in it truly, you don't sometimes have the courage to move forward and keep following your heart. So have you had those moments, and what has really helped you in just sticking to that path? I'm
so glad you asked this question. I'm going to share a little bit about my personal life a little bit. Around a year ago, I was in that kind of part of my life. I was actually in a state of depression, and I did not know what I was experiencing.
Sorry to hear that.
No, of course. It was like an existential depression, and my mom was witnessing it. And you know how mothers are, especially Indian mothers, they're very emotional and they're very loving. And my mom, even though she's very spiritual, religious, and she's very much into the whole art of meditation and everything, she was like, she knew that I was a little bit rigid at that point, a little bit over a year ago. And I was constantly, because sometimes when you get into spirituality, as you said, towards the beginning stage, it's not going to be that easy, right? And sometimes what happens is once you're in that path of spirituality, you question that, oh, so if I'm not the body, then what's the point, right? Okay, so if at the end of the day, the materialistic things aren't going to give me happiness, then what will? And that kind of puts you in a depressive state.
It puts you in a loop.
Exactly, puts you in a constant loop. And you constantly just like, you're thinking and thinking and thinking. And then you overthink to the point where you get into that depression state. And I even went to a therapist. We talked to a therapist and all that. And you know how therapists are. And I'm not saying negatively about them, obviously. But we went to a few therapists. They're like, oh, no, you got to be on lifelong medication. And my mom was like, Aryaan, just listen to me. Just start meditating a little bit. Like, fine, mom. We started doing meditation morning, evening. And maybe the first week, nothing much happened. Maybe the second week, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit more relaxed. Fourth week, fifth week, after 1 month, 2 months, everything changed. And before it was like this depression state was like a catalyst for me, because I had never written music. I had never composed anything. I was just singing other people's songs, which is totally fine. But as an artist, like one way to actually open up your heart is to write music, is to create content. And after this depression state, and after meditating for a month or two, for some reason, I started writing music out of my heart, and it just changed my whole life. That's why I think I was telling this to Suja, that meditation and spirituality kind of helped me unleash that creativity inside me as an artist. And ultimately, it helped you materialistically too. And you're right. In the beginning, it might feel like, oh, why are things aren't working? It took a couple months, but at the end of the day, for some reason, it's like, and I did a podcast with a very well-known director. His name is David Lynch. And he told me this. He's like, that when actors sometimes walk into the room, right, they people say, oh, he has an it factor, right? Wow, like why? He said that it factor isn't because you're good looking. That it factor isn't because you're dressed well. It's that consciousness. It's that energy, that spiritual, that your soul is speaking. And sometimes you just change the way people perceive you, and you just give this energy off to people. And once you meditate for some time, especially, and I'm talking from my personal experience with Heartfulness, after meeting Daji, it kind of changes your your experience with other people, your relationships. It's not just that, oh, I'm going to understand myself more, but the way you talk to other people, the way you handle situations. Like, for example, if something happens in your daily life, whether it's small or big, whether it's a business deal or something broke in the kitchen or something like that, normally you'd be like, oh my God, why is this going on? Oh my God, constantly monkey mind.
Yeah,
but
it's like a victim mindset.
Exactly. But when you're meditating on a daily basis regularly, and you're in that spiritual mindset, you can see this with a lot of, I've seen it with you, your energy, with Suchit, all these people that are connected with Daji, that they are so in content with themselves. Their reactions are so not like just in the moment, but they know how to behave and how to kind of react to the situations actually in reality. They're not basing everything off of kind of like a split decision kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. So that's my personal experience. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think heartfulness has helped me significantly in just centering and responding instead of reacting.
Exactly.
And I think when you get less and less in your own way and you're just in that flow state, because meditation gives you that humility to realize that you're so insignificant and yet you're significant.
Exactly.
And
Wow,
what
I'm
is
so
it
happy you
that
said
you
that.
can do with that significance that you have in this life. And I think it's often what Daji says around, self-realization and finding yourself. And, you're so right. I find that when I meditate more, I'm able to make far more meaningful human connections from the heart, which last a long, long time. Because at the end of the day, the other person can also resonate and can also feel how and what you really, how, from what place are you coming to them. If it's from a very transactional place, the other person can very, very quickly make out. But, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think, very often when young people get into depression or any sort of struggle, I think the easy go-to is addictions. How come you never went to that? Or did you, and you have something to share on that?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I did, I did have a period because, and I'll be a little bit honest about this, because in US, and you know what, I'm going to be totally honest, because I mean, I feel at least my audience, a lot of them are from America and from the Western world. Marijuana has been legalized everywhere. And it's not just been legalized, but it's been marketed as something that's not just spiritual, but like therapeutic, which I guess maybe in some situations, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, but what happens is, like, you have all these dispensaries in California and New York, and they're probably like even better than most like designer stores. I'm being totally honest, the way and every social circle you're in, your friends are like, oh, you want to smoke? And they're not talking about cigarettes. They're always going to be talking about weed, at least in the Western world. And for me, and this is a lot of people go through this while they're getting some sort of success. Like, I still remember when I was in New York. This was like 2020. Yeah, this was 20. It was like 4 years ago. It was after I worked on a couple projects. I did something with Mountain Dew, and I went to Florida for the shoot. And we were just like, we were making money, we were doing all this, and everybody's like, oh, you know what? Now that you're making money, now that you're getting some success, now is the time to relax and have fun. Let's smoke some weed. And you smoke weed once, and you're like, oh, this was such a good experience. Everything gets numbed out. And then the worst part is that when it comes to musicians, rappers, singers, you walk into any recording studio in America, this recording studio is going to be full of smoke. It's everybody's going to be smoking weed. It's like a thing in America that if you're an artist, you have to smoke weed. That's going to unleash your creativity. And at that moment, I was like, yeah, that's what it's going to do. I was like, I even told mom, I was like, Mom, I smoked weed. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, Mom, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. She's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, Mom, no, I don't know. I feel like it unleashed my creativity. And I'm here telling everybody that's watching, if you are actually an artist and people are advising you that smoking weed is going to unleash your creativity. Now, as a medical professional, I might not know the answer, but meditation and spirituality gives you a high that weed can never give you. And I swear to God when I say this, like this high that spirituality and meditation gives you, it's not even a high, because what is a high? A high is like, okay, if you take a drug, any sort of drug, even if it's some sort of pills, clonazepam, some anxiety pills, anything, you're going to have a high. but then in a couple hours, he's going to have a low.
A downer, yeah.
But with spirituality, there's a smooth balance. It's a high that never has lows, as I like to say it. So
Beautiful.
So that was my kind of experience with addiction. Very short, it's a couple months, and I came out of it very quickly, thanks to meditation, thanks to Daji, thanks to Heartfulness, and thanks to my mom. Definitely, if she's watching, yeah.
Well, one last question. I think, what you also said about smoking, right? I mean, it didn't come to you naturally, but
No.
do you think often we get into this peer pressure, this need to fit in, this ability to belong, and we often do things that may not align with our values, so I've done that when I was young, and I'm sure a lot of people are doing it right now. What is it that you can share with them which gives them that courage to actually step away and say, no, that's okay. I'm not going to fall for this. I'm going to do what actually gives me and what I think is right for me.
Yeah, no, beautifully said. The best I can say is that I know it's not easy when you have a group of friends, especially like if you've been friends with them for so many years, and even worse that they're in the same profession as you are. That's even harder and especially if they're successful as well. It's different that when you're in college or high school and someone is giving you weed or any sort of drug before your exam or something. And it's totally different when you're a little bit older and you're making money and you're in success, and then people are smoking weed around you and peer pressuring you to do drugs, whether it's drugs or whether it's anything, right? I feel like you should just kind of, this is what I do at least. And now I kind of take, and because I've experienced so much in regards to this, I always decide to take a deep breath. I try to do a short meditation. I'm being 100% honest. And I just kind of like, even if you don't have to think about anything when you're meditating, that kind of state of silence, that kind of state of just pure bliss kind of puts you in connection with your soul. So when you come out of that meditation, you don't have all these thoughts in your head of what other people are saying you to do, right? And you're not as influenced as you were before. Even in one meditation, you can kind of just like change the way you were thinking, because sometimes we all have different conditioning, right? Whether it's through this life or any kind of like, whether it's a year or 2 years, whether it's our family, whether it's our friends, where we were brought up. Like I was born up in US, so even though my mom brought me up with a lot of Indian values, touch the feet of your elders, all that stuff, give love to everybody, treat everybody as your sister, like all these things that she used to say. At the same time, you're eventually going to go out of the house. You're going to make friends, and peer pressure is, as you said, it's very difficult. So I would just say, take a deep breath, connect to your soul, try meditation. And as you were telling me before this podcast, to all of us influencers, you were mentioning that don't just give it one try, give it a couple of weeks, give it a month or so, and it'll make a difference. And I feel like it's very important for someone who's actually, because like it's one thing, going to the Himalayas, right? Going to a cave, becoming a monk. That's one thing. And I have so much respect for people that do that. I've met so many amazing monks. I've met so many amazing spiritual gurus that have devoted their life into this. But for many of us who would be watching this podcast, who are young, even who are in college or even just starting off their careers, and are experiencing these moments of peer pressures and lots of these obstacles, I would just say, try to do meditation. I know there's a lot of different techniques out there, but heartfulness is one thing that's like very simple, and it's very just like grounded in reality, grounded in practicality, grounded to your soul. Yeah. So try that out and give it some time, give it a month or so. And from personal experience, it will not only make you a better human being, which you already are. Everybody has that divinity within themselves. Everybody's a good human being. We just all have different conditions, So try that out. Definitely be that beautiful human being that we all are, and you will experience spiritual advancements in your life as well as materialistic.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We couldn't have wrapped this conversation on a better note, and the high that you were talking about, which we get in meditation, and the absolute bliss. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think the fact that you spoke about meditation being so easy, I think is really crucial.
Definitely.
Because often, even today, we find that meditation is spoken about as something which is, oh my God, out there. Like, I can't do it today. It's so difficult. I'll have to make so many sacrifices. I can't do it with the corporate pressures that we have. but in fact, that is when you need it the most.
Exactly.
So,
Wow.
So thank you so much. It was
Thank
a
you so
beautiful
much.
conversation, and I wish you all the best. And thanks for coming for the Global Spirituality Mahotsav. And
Of course.
we'll keep watching all your beautiful music coming out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Amazing.